think more shock and dauntingness was more the feeling I felt. But it was, the thing is, it's, I think I was on such a high anyway.
I kind of know that this might happen. You don't really think about it very much. Not least of all because the monarchy is about continuity.
The British royal family just witnessed the most ruthless power move in decades, and it's coming from someone nobody saw coming. Prince William, the so-called gentle future king, just delivered a knockout punch that left Queen Camilla reeling, crying, and questioning everything she thought she knew about her place in the monarchy. This isn't your typical royal drama, folks. This is calculated, cold, and absolutely devastating. Behind those perfectly pressed suits and polite smiles, a brutal family war has been brewing, and William just fired the shot that changed everything. He's systematically stripping away every single privilege, title, and royal connection that Camilla's family has spent years building. Her grandchildren, gone from royal events. Her children, erased from the guest lists. Her carefully constructed royal legacy, obliterated with the stroke of a pen. But here's where it gets really twisted. William didn't just wake up one morning and decide to destroy Camilla's dreams. This has been a long-term strategy, a chess game played over years, and now we're seeing the final moves that are absolutely crushing the Queen Consort spirit. The woman who survived decades of public hatred, who clawed her way from royal mistress to queen, is now watching her family get systematically expelled from the very world she fought so hard to enter. William's vision for the monarchy isn't just different from his father's, it's the complete opposite. While King Charles believes in warmth, inclusion, and blended families, William sees these as weaknesses that threaten the very foundation of royal power. He's looked at the chaos surrounding other European monarchies, the scandals, the confusion about who's really royal and who's just hanging around, and he's decided enough is enough. This isn't about being mean or petty. This is about survival. William understands something that his father seemingly doesn't. In today's world, where every royal move is dissected, criticized, and judged, there's no room for confusion about who represents the crown. The public doesn't want to see random people with no royal blood living in palaces, attending state dinners, and acting like they matter. So William created what insiders are calling a monarchy reset. Clean lines, clear rules, and absolutely zero exceptions. If you weren't born with royal blood running through your veins, you don't get to play in the royal sandbox. Period. It sounds harsh, but William sees it as necessary surgery to save the patient. The timing of his power play is absolutely genius. With King Charles dealing with serious health issues and slowly stepping back from royal duties, William is essentially test driving his future reign. He's showing everyone, the public, the palace staff, and most importantly, his own family, exactly what kind of king he's going to be. And that king doesn't negotiate, doesn't compromise, and doesn't care about hurt feelings when the crown is at stake. Now let's talk about how Camilla managed to pull off what might be the greatest royal infiltration in modern history. This woman didn't just marry into the royal family. She systematically positioned her entire bloodline for royal recognition, and she did it so slowly and carefully that most people didn't even notice it happening. Back in 2005, when Camilla finally married Charles, her children Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez were complete unknowns. They lived private lives, stayed out of the spotlight, and seemed perfectly content to remain in the background. But Camilla had bigger plans. She understood that in the royal world, visibility equals legitimacy, and legitimacy equals power. The transformation started small. Camilla's children began appearing at private family gatherings, then small royal events, then bigger ceremonies. Palace staff were instructed to treat them as part of Camilla's household. Their names started appearing on guest lists. They were seated closer and closer to the main royal family during public events. But the real masterstroke came during King Charles's coronation. Camilla managed to get her grandsons, Gus and Louis Lopez, and Freddie Parker Bowles, appointed as pages of honor. This was absolutely unprecedented. These roles are traditionally reserved for the sons of dukes, or actual royal children. Having Camilla's grandchildren in these positions sent a crystal-clear message. They weren't just accepted, they were part of the royal story. Palace insiders were shocked. Some called it brilliant, others called it audacious, but everyone agreed that Camilla had just pulled off something extraordinary. She had taken her family from complete outsiders to central players in the most important royal ceremony in decades. After the coronation, Camilla got bolder. She started pushing for permanent ceremonial titles for her grandchildren. She wanted them to have ongoing roles at official events. She even made quiet requests for new homes for her family on royal lands. Most of these requests were politely declined, but the message was clear. Camilla wasn't satisfied with just being Queen Consort. She wanted her entire family tree to be permanently grafted onto the Windsor dynasty. But William was watching, and William was planning. He saw exactly what Camilla was doing, and while he remained publicly respectful and supportive, privately he was building a case for why this royal expansion had to stop. William's concerns weren't personal, they were strategic. He looked at the public reaction to minor royals living lavish lifestyles. He studied the criticism of European monarchies that had become bloated with distant relatives claiming royal status, and he realized that the British monarchy was heading down a dangerous path. The future king understood something crucial. Public trust in the monarchy is fragile and hard-earned. Every person who appears to represent the royal family reflects on the institution as a whole. When people see individuals with no royal blood attending state functions, living in royal properties, and acting like they have some divine right to luxury, it breeds resentment and cynicism. So, William began his counteroffensive. It started with subtle changes to guest lists. Camilla's family members found themselves mysteriously absent from certain events. Their names disappeared from official photographs. Their roles and ceremonies were quietly reassigned to others. But William was just getting started. He understood that half measures wouldn't work. If he wanted to reset the monarchy's boundaries, he needed to be comprehensive and final. So he began systematically removing every privilege, every access point, and every symbol of royal connection that Camilla's family had accumulated. Security passes were revoked. Invitations stopped arriving. Charities were instructed not to include Camilla's grandchildren in royal patronage events. Event organizers received clear instructions to exclude their names from guest lists. It was surgical, thorough, and absolutely devastating. The news hit Camilla like a freight train. One moment she was Queen Consort with a family that had finally found its place in the royal world. The next moment she was watching everything she'd built get systematically destroyed. Close friends described Camilla's reaction as complete devastation. She canceled her scheduled appearances, stopped eating properly, and spent days wandering around Clarence's house in a state of shock and disbelief. This wasn't just about losing titles or missing events. This was about having her entire identity as a successful royal matriarch ripped away. But what made it even worse was the silence. William didn't call her to explain his decision. King Charles didn't defend her position. The royal machine just moved forward, erasing her family's presence like they had never existed in the first place. Camilla began questioning everything. Had she misread her position? Had she pushed too hard, too fast? Was this punishment for something she'd done, or was it simply William flexing his muscles as the future king? The emotional toll was visible to everyone around her. Staff at Clarence's house reported that the atmosphere had become heavy and tense. Camilla, usually warm and engaging, became withdrawn and distant. She started avoiding family gatherings where she might encounter William or Kate. But perhaps most tellingly, Camilla began pulling away from King Charles himself. She felt betrayed by his silence, abandoned by the man she had supported through his darkest moments. If he wouldn't stand up for her and her family, what did that say about their relationship and her real status within the royal hierarchy? King Charles found himself in the worst possible position, trapped between the woman he loves and the son who represents the future of everything he's dedicated his life to protecting. This gentle, conflict-averse monarch suddenly faced a situation where any choice he made would devastate someone he cares about deeply. Charles understood Camilla's pain. He had watched her work tirelessly to build acceptance for her family, and he had supported her efforts because he believed in the power of love and inclusion. To him, the monarchy should be big enough to embrace the people who matter to its members. But Charles also couldn't ignore the logic behind William's position. As king, he had to think about the long-term health of the institution. If William, as the future king, believed that these changes were necessary for the monarchy's survival, could Charles really oppose him? The king's silence became its own form of communication. By not defending Camilla's position, by not overruling William's decisions, Charles was essentially endorsing his son's vision of a streamlined, focused monarchy. But that endorsement came at a terrible personal cost. Palace insiders report that Charles looked exhausted and worn down during this period. He was caught between his role as a husband who should protect his wife's interests and his duty as a king who must consider the greater good of the monarchy. The weight of that impossible choice was clearly taking its toll. Meanwhile, the distance between Charles and Camilla continued to grow. She interpreted his silence as betrayal, while he saw it as the painful but necessary choice of a king who must put duty before personal feelings. Neither was entirely wrong, which made the situation even more tragic. Inside the palace walls, reactions to William's power play were mixed but telling. The royal household essentially split into two camps, revealing fault lines that had been developing for years. Some long-serving palace staff and courtiers quietly supported William's decision. They had watched the gradual expansion of Camilla's family influence with growing unease, worried that it was blurring the lines of what it meant to be truly royal. To them, William's actions represented a return to proper protocol and clear hierarchy. These supporters saw William's move as necessary leadership. They appreciated his willingness to make difficult decisions and his focus on protecting the monarchy's long-term reputation. In their view, he was showing exactly the kind of strategic thinking that a future king needs to possess. But other palace insiders felt sympathy for Camilla and her family. They had watched her children and grandchildren behave with dignity and respect during their time in royal circles. These courtiers saw William's actions as unnecessarily harsh and potentially damaging to family relationships. What everyone agreed on, regardless of their position on the specific decision, was that William had demonstrated his readiness to lead. He had identified what he saw as a problem, developed a comprehensive solution, and implemented it with precision and determination. Whether people liked his methods or not, they couldn't deny his effectiveness. The power dynamics within the royal family had shifted permanently. William wasn't waiting for his father to step aside. He was already acting like a king, making decisions that would shape the monarchy's future. This wasn't just about Camilla's family anymore. It was about establishing William's authority and vision as the dominant force in royal planning. To truly understand the devastation of William's decision, you have to appreciate the incredible journey that brought Camilla to this point. This is a woman who went from being the most hated figure in Britain to Queen Consort, only to watch her carefully constructed legacy get dismantled by her stepson. Camilla's path to royal acceptance was one of the most remarkable rehabilitation stories in modern royal history. In the 1990s, she was public enemy number one, the woman who destroyed the fairy tale marriage of Charles and Diana. The British public despised her, the media vilified her, and even members of the royal family questioned whether she could ever be accepted. But Camilla persevered with extraordinary patience and strategic brilliance. She stayed in the background during the worst of the Diana years, never responding to attacks, never seeking sympathy, never trying to compete with the beloved princess. She simply waited and supported Charles through his darkest period. After Diana's death, Camilla slowly began appearing in public with Charles. She took on charitable work, developed her own causes, and gradually showed the British people who she really was, not the scheming homewrecker of media portrayals, but an intelligent, dedicated woman who genuinely loved the future king. By the time Charles and Camilla married in 2005, public opinion had shifted significantly. People began to see her as someone who had paid her dues, who had proven her commitment, and who deserved a chance at happiness with the man she loved. Her transformation from royal mistress to Queen Consort seemed to prove that in modern Britain, redemption was possible, that past mistakes could be overcome through dedication and service. It was an inspiring story that made her family's inclusion in royal life seem like a natural, heartwarming extension of her own acceptance. Which is exactly why William's decision feels so brutal. He's not just removing titles and privileges, he's essentially declaring that Camilla's greatest achievement, the integration of her family into royal life, was an overreach that needed to be corrected. In the immediate aftermath of William's decision, the changes became visible almost immediately. Royal events that had previously included Camilla's family members suddenly looked different. State banquets, ceremonial occasions, and even family photographs reflected the new reality. Camilla's grandchildren, who had become familiar faces at royal events, simply vanished from public royal life. Event organizers received clear instructions about the new guest list parameters. Security details were updated to reflect the changed access levels. The royal website was quietly updated to remove references to extended family members. For the public, these changes might have seemed subtle, but for anyone paying close attention to royal protocol, the message was unmistakable. William had drawn a line in the sand, and that line excluded anyone who couldn't trace their royal status through birth rather than marriage. The new reality extended beyond just public events. Private family gatherings became more tense and awkward. Holiday celebrations, birthday parties, and informal family meals now carry the weight of this fundamental disagreement about who belonged and who didn't. Camilla found herself in the impossible position of attending family events where her own children and grandchildren were no longer welcome. The joy and warmth that had characterized recent royal family gatherings was replaced by an underlying tension that everyone could feel but nobody wanted to acknowledge directly. William's actions weren't just about solving an immediate problem. They were about establishing the blueprint for his future reign. This power play gave us the clearest indication yet of what kind of king William intends to be, and it's very different from both his father and his grandmother. Unlike King Charles, who values emotion and personal relationships, William operates from a place of strategic calculation. He's willing to cause short-term pain and family discord if he believes it serves the long-term interests of the monarchy. Unlike Queen Elizabeth II, who managed family conflicts through private diplomacy and gradual adjustments, William prefers decisive action that establishes clear precedents. He's not interested in managing problems. He wants to solve them permanently. This approach suggests that William's reign will be characterized by efficiency, clarity, and potentially some ruthlessness when he deems it necessary. He's shown that he's willing to override family sentiment when it conflicts with his vision of royal duty. The implications extend far beyond Camilla's situation. William has essentially announced that under his future reign, royal status will be earned through birth and dedicated service, not through marriage connections or family relationships. This could affect how future royal marriages are structured, how extended family members are integrated, and how the monarchy presents itself to the public. But perhaps most significantly, William has demonstrated that he's already thinking and acting like a king, even while his father is still on the throne. This transition of real power, regardless of official titles, represents a fundamental shift in how the monarchy operates and makes decisions. The royal family, as we knew it, is gone forever. In its place is William's vision of a focused, streamlined institution that prioritizes clarity over comfort, duty over emotion, and strategic thinking over traditional family harmony. Whether this new approach will strengthen or weaken the monarchy remains to be seen, but one thing is absolutely certain: the age of gentle royal politics is over, and the William era has begun with a power play that left Queen Camilla devastated and the entire royal establishment scrambling to understand the new rules of the game.